Do you like that you don't have to put on makeup?
Yeah, it's so easy.
Yeah.
I just rock up.
I know.
It's so much easier being a boy.
You literally are just ready for the day, and then you sit down for the podcast, and I'm like, I need to have a shower and do my hair. And
Yeah.
okay.
I'm glad I was born a boy.
I'm glad I was born a girl. I'm glad that we're both happy with our gender.
We chose well.
Welcome back to the Relationship Mentors podcast. Today's episode is called His, Hers, and Ours. So it's been 2.5 years of love and business.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. So when we look at our relationship has genuinely evolved so much over the years that we have been together. And I was saying to Charlie the other day that I genuinely believe if we came into our relationship or even dating each other with the expectation to have the dynamic within our relationship that we have now, like if we came into the relationship expecting this exact dynamic, I don't believe we would have continued dating, because it's just like how much growth we've had within ourselves and our own mindset has changed so much over the years that we've been together that it's let us come to this point that we're so happy with the dynamic that we've created for ourselves.
And it goes to show, like, you don't know what you want a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like we thought we wanted this thing, and then we just walk the path day by day, and these things are changing over time, and it feels so normal day by day. It doesn't really feel like things change. And then we look back over 2.5 years, be like, fuck, we never thought our relationship would look like this.
And just like, also, I was thinking just then, it's like the chances of that, it's like we've come into the relationship wanting very similar things and like wanting like a same dynamic within the relationship. And the chances of that evolving and growing to the same dynamic, like wanting this, like our dynamic that we've both wanted has transformed so much, but we're still wanting the same thing.
That's the power of staying connected through the relationship. Like, personal growth is the biggest thing that ruins relationships, is two people growing in separate directions. And it's so normal, like every single day I'm changing, Mia's changing, everyone in the world is changing slightly. And you can see how so many people break up because they don't stay connected through that. They don't work on their long-term goals. They don't speak what they actually want to speak in the relationship. And then they end up just breaking up. So our relationships changed so much, and it's testament to how connected we've been throughout that.
Oh, 100%.
And trusting in that.
Absolutely. And I think it's like, if you guys can take anything from this podcast, it really is just how much personal development happens and self-awareness and growth that you have when you're in a relationship, because your partner really is just mirroring back certain parts of you. So,
even today, like day by day for us still,
yeah,
I'm just like, fuck, that annoys me. I'm like, what is that in me that annoys me? No way. And when you get annoyed, you're like, is that me or is that Charlie? It's usually me.
Yeah. My first I was like, it's not me.
Yeah, just like every little trigger, anything that comes up, it's like there's a lesson there. Every trigger is a teacher, and it's choosing to learn from them.
Exactly.
I'm excited for this one.
Yeah.
It's such a, two different, like, love and business. It feels like it can be the opposite side of the spectrum, but they're both the same as well.
It's really interesting. So like in this podcast, how we're going to really talk about it is we're just going to express what our expectations were coming into the relationship and what I was wanting out of the relationship and how that's evolved to the dynamic that we have now. So where we started, where we are now, and then what do we believe changed
throughout the time.
Yeah, throughout the time for us to even get to this point. Because we were so happy at the beginning and we're so happy now. And it's just gradually, and like both dynamics are completely different. But I think it's really beautiful to know that it's just evolved so gradually and it hasn't felt forced. Well, for me anyway.
Yeah, coming into this relationship, I always had this belief that I had to choose between being the best version of myself and growing a business or being in a relationship. As a man, I feel like it can really feel like you have to have your life together before committing to a relationship, or you have to have your finances in place before committing to getting married or having kids. Like, men have so many checkpoints in their head of, I can't do this within relationships until I do this within my career, business, or finances. And I was like, fuck no, I'm not ready to commit. I'm not ready to find my forever person until I'm this in business, until I'm this in my life. And then I met Mia, and then we started dating. I was like, fuck yeah, this is what I want. And then through this process of just realizing like I get to have all of it and be in a relationship.
Yeah, that's really big, because I know from a woman's point of view, it's like we hear that a lot. Even if we are in a relationship, the man wants a particular level of success in his career before he proposes or before they get married. Even if they've been together for 8 years and he is financially secure and successful, he's not to the level that he wants to be in a career sense.
Yeah. And I speak to so many women and they're like, fuck, when is he going to propose? He's never proposing. Like, it's going to be ages. And men have like this financial barrier where they have to feel good enough in themselves, secure enough in themselves, so they know they can fully go into this marriage and it doesn't put this external pressure on themselves. So that's really interesting. I don't think a lot of women would know that's going on in a guy's head.
Yeah. And all I also think is like, even if a guy has expressed that, it's almost hard sometimes to even comprehend. Like for me, like my question to you would be like, what actually made you have that transition? For you, it was you weren't wanting to get even into a relationship because you were wanting to have this certain amount of success in your career first.
I think I was just lying to myself, to be honest. I was like, as soon as we started dating and just surrendering into that experience and going on more dates and seeing each other more, I was like, fuck, I really enjoy this. And just realizing how much bullshit it was of, I don't know, I was just holding myself back so much, a bit of self-sabotage. But then when we started dating and going out, I just allowed myself to go into that.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like it was a conscious change. It was just I allowed myself to go with it. And then 2.5 years later, we're
here we are. So yeah, it sounds like it was you took a step in that direction because you were enjoying it, and then you just continuously lent into it more the more that you were enjoying it. That just got you to this point, rather than okay, like I'm 100% in this.
Yeah. And when people break these beliefs and stuff, it's never one moment I believed this, then it was all broken, then my life completely changed after that moment. It's a
gradual.
It's almost invisible. Like, improvement is almost invisible. It's like looking at yourself in the mirror every single day. You don't notice any difference every single day, but you look back after 5 years, you'll be like, holy shit, I've changed a lot.
It's like what they say with that 1%. There's like slightly changing. Like 1% is so tiny, but over time, it really adds up.
And that's even building trust, building anything, breaking old beliefs, which we're going to go into today. It's like it happens gradually over time. It's not just a moment where it changes. It's slowly over time and often so invisible.
I do have a question that's not necessarily relevant to this podcast, but relevant to what you said. It's like, if there are people out there, like women out there, that are with men who are wanting a particular level of success in their career before they propose, because it's like this is a very common thing that I hear a lot, that they're in a committed relationship, they've been together for so long. It's like, why doesn't he just propose? He wants this amount of financial success or this level of success in his career, but he already is financially secure, or he's reached the level that he said that he was wanting to a couple of years ago, but now he's moved the needle.
Moved the goalpost.
Yeah, the goalpost, that's what it is.
I feel like calling him out on his shit, but in the most loving way. Like making him aware of how dumb it is in the most loving way. If you directly tell him, if you question him, if you try and control him or criticize him, he's going to run in the opposite direction. He's going to get defensive, or he's going to shut down. So if you can bring it up, have that conversation, like what are you feeling now? What's the goal with business stuff? And when we get here, what's going to happen? And why do you feel like this? And just digging down on the reasons he's giving you. And if you dig down deep enough, he'll probably realize that it's bullshit. But it's just like digging deeper in a loving way.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts coming into the relationship, Mia Cherry?
My thoughts, not necessarily my thoughts coming into the relationship, but it's like when I came into this relationship, I heavily prioritized work. Like work was my number one priority in life. It's like if I was doing anything, I would sacrifice socializing to work. And over the time when I look back now, it's like I really was just using work for stability. Like I didn't feel stable or safe in my life, which I definitely didn't realize this at the time. But it was just like I was using work to create stability and like my level of what I thought success was. And that was something that I could could control, that I believe the harder I worked, the more stability that I would have and the more success I would have in life. But I was only ever focusing on that one area. And then when I got into a relationship with Charlie over the years, and it definitely was something that gradually happened over the years, and just being in a healthy relationship, it's like just being in a relationship with someone that genuinely just cared for the relationship, and we're building such a great foundation of the relationship and our life together, that I actually started creating stability in other areas of my life. And I didn't realize it was happening until because obviously I'm wanting to create a great relationship and create a great life. And the more I was doing that with Charlie, I would realize at a point where it just made me realize one day that I looked around and I was like, wow, like I have such a stable relationship. I have such a stable life now. I have such stable finances. I have such stable all these things, that it really highlighted all the other areas in my life that I didn't feel stable in, or looking back several years ago when I was like, wow, I actually didn't have stability in these areas of my life, but I was searching for it and I was wanting it internally, that I wasn't listening to my emotions, or I was really neglecting myself a lot with how I was feeling. And all of this was so subconscious, unconscious. I was not aware of it until I looked back and realized, I was like, wow, I was neglecting how I felt so much that I was searching for stability externally. And I was searching for stability when I really needed stability internally, and recognize how I was feeling or whatever it was that I was going through. I was just putting all the focus onto work. And the more stable I was at work, where I was working really hard, safe in my career, successful in my career, I thought that was giving me the stability that I was needing. But it wasn't until, several years later, I realized, wow, now that I have stability in so many different areas of my life, I don't prioritize work as much as I did before. Work was the number one priority before family, before friends, before socializing, before enjoying life overall. And now when I look at my life, I feel like it's so much more balanced in the sense of how I want the balance to look, which is really great.
I feel like your biggest fear before was having to depend on someone else. And that's what you were fighting against. It's like the harder you work, the more money you make, the less you'd have to rely on anyone else around you. And that's the battle you were facing, wasn't it? It's like the harder I work, the further away I get from having to depend on other people. It was such a safety thing, wasn't it?
It was such a safety net. And the thing that the belief I really carried around with me for years, I would literally even say over 10 years, was if I had this financial amount in my account, that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. No matter what happens in my life, I'm going to be okay because I have enough money to run away.
Yeah, I'm ready to run.
I was like, no matter what happens, it's like I can flee, run away, fly away, and it be like I can start all again.
And how did that ruin your relationships in the past, of the working so much and not wanting to rely on anyone?
It's now when so much of this is now only when I look back with a better and clearer perception of it, where in the present moments I would have thought it was fine and I'm just really hardworking and independent.
It just felt normal at the time.
Yeah, it just felt normal at the time. But now when I look back, I can really see it's like in relationships in particular, I just didn't care about them. I thought I cared about them. And to some levels, I obviously did care about them. But if I was only, I didn't even care about myself enough. I only wanted to, I didn't care about myself enough to check in with my emotions or any other area. I just cared about myself being safe from dying, because it felt like if I didn't have
self to rely on.
Yeah, self to rely on, I would just die, which is very dramatic. But I know a lot of people have that self-belief of they're fearful of something. And why are you fearful of it? What's the worst that could happen? And the first answer that comes to your mind is, I could die.
Yeah.
But it's not rational, but that's the thought and belief that I had, even that I could logically make sense that wasn't going to happen. But yeah, it just showed that I just genuinely didn't care about them or the relationship enough. Like I didn't prioritize them because I was prioritizing work and nothing even came close. It's like, you know, they say like, what are your top 5 priorities? It was work, 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 work. Then everyone else was different, like on just a whole nother level that just didn't matter as much.
Yeah, it's like you were so disconnected from yourself through that time, through our talks, like very disassociated, not checking in with what you actually wanted, operating from fear. And yeah, how did that show up for you with you pushing down your feelings? Did it lead to burnout and stuff, or?
Oh, 100%. I think it got to a point, and all of this, when I really do look back, all of it was coming from heartbreak of just being so upset with like where my life was, how I felt on the day to day. Like I just didn't feel happy day to day. I just felt so numb to so many emotions. I just felt nothing. And I felt what you were saying, so disconnected. Like I felt so disconnected, not only just from myself, but if I felt so disconnected from myself, I found it so hard to connect with other people because I didn't feel like I could relate to them, or I felt so alone and I felt like I was the only one going through this. Now knowing there's so many people out there that also have these similar feelings, that in those moments I just felt so alone. So I just felt so disconnected.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And what was the belief that got switched when we started going out? You were working within another business, and I think you were there for like at least 4 or 5 months. I think when we first started dating, I think you quit just before we moved in here, so it was like 4 months. I think you were working for them.
I was there for like 2 years.
No, but after we got together.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we met each other, and then I was there for another like 4 or 5 months, and then I was no longer working there. Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah. What was the main thing about you wanting to leave that, and how did that how did I influence you wanting to leave?
That's so interesting. Yeah, with that, I think I started feeling probably the year before I met you. So it was like maybe 3-4 months just before I met you. I realized that I had reached the level of success that I had wanted in a career sense of like financial stability, creating my own life, thinking like that all these external things would make me happy. And I had reached that level of success and that validation within work and validation within finances and validations within like somewhat of a friend group. I say in the time I thought it was a friend group, and like living this like luxury lifestyle for to say, but I still then went back to I started not feeling as passionate or fulfilled within work, because my driving motivator to work so hard in the past was because how unstable my life felt. That's my wording now. I wouldn't have said that back then. But it's like I had such a driver to get out of the place that I was growing up, or in the years prior to that I had gotten myself so far away from that place of my life that then I realized, oh, work isn't fulfilling. Like this particular job is no longer fulfilling for me. And I just am no longer passionate about it. And I want to go do my own thing, or just looking for something different career-wise. And then the moment that Charlie and I met, I just knew that like
you would leave your job.
Yeah. It's so interesting because it's like the moment I said it to you, I just knew like,
it's out there.
Yeah. It's like I knew that you were always going to hold me to that. That you, definitely aren't someone for me to like tell my goal to, and then you just be like, okay, and then never bring it up again. It's like, how are you going with this? Like you'll check in and always encourage me to do what I'm wanting to do. And at that point, you knew that I didn't want to be in that job anymore. That I just didn't care about it whatsoever.
It was such a thing for you with not telling goals, wasn't it? Remember how resistant you were to sharing any goals?
Yeah.
Like you never wanted to share what you wanted to do until you had achieved it.
Yeah.
And it was such a thing, like if I don't share a goal, no one will hold me to this goal. I feel like that was playing out.
Or 100%. And so I feel like that was a big change of just like having someone in my corner that felt like was like always rooting for me and believing in me. It's like, even that we had like just met, I remember it was just like on one of our first dates. It feels like first couple of weeks of us going on dates with each other. And I had shared that with you, and then you just had like held me to that because you knew that that's what I was wanting. So you just kept holding me to it. And so it was just having someone there that was that close to me, that was holding me to it for the best intention of me. Because anyone else that I was working with at the time that had the same feeling of not wanting to be at this workplace or something, that they were in a very negative cycle of it, rather than my expectation wasn't negative towards the workplace. It just wasn't what I was wanting anymore. So it was like having that one person that really encouraged me to do it with all the positivity rather than the negative side of things.
I remember the day you told me you quit. We're in the car park of a shopping centre in Stockland.
We were celebrating so much. We were so happy.
And we took a selfie there. Remember, that was so cute. And you said, like I left my job. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Because it wasn't bringing you any joy by the end. You were working so hard and so disconnected and chasing all the time, and you're so tired all the time. So it's just such a big moment. And I was like, fuck yeah. Just seeing someone believe in themselves, I love that so much. And that was very attractive. Yeah.
And I think it was just like I stayed there for so long because I was just fearful of, I don't know, backing myself, because it was like I wasn't leaving to go to another job. It was stop working there and start working for myself in my own business. Yeah.
And then we moved in together right after that.
Yeah, we did.
And that was a big upgrade as well. That was after like 6 months, wasn't it? That was pretty early on.
You asked me to move in with you 3 months in, and then we spent 3 months looking for a place.
Yeah. So I'm from the UK. I'm an immigrant in Australia. And part of the ways I can stay in Australia is through a partner visa with an Australian partner. And I had to register our relationship to the government in order to be eligible to apply for a partner visa. So I remember like 2 or 3 months in, I was like, hey, do you mind if we like just sign this thing just so the timer can start? Because like you have to be on that thing for a year and then register your relationship.
Really? So you had to sign, we
had to register our relationship, and then it being registered for a whole year, then I could apply for partner visa.
So even if we like went in 6 months time and said that we started dating back when we started dating, that didn't count because it had to be registered with the government.
That was my understanding, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So I started the clock real early. I was like, we might as well start the clock now.
Did you know? That makes me like, wow, that was really, that's very commitful of you.
I know.
I was like, to me, I'm just signing a piece of paper. Yeah, there you go.
You're like, sign your life away.
So what made you do that?
Just so I could stay in the country. Just options. It's such a weird thing. It's like Australians don't even think about it. Like, I'm not safe in this country fully. Like, I could have to leave. My visa could run out. I could not have an option to even stay in this country. And I'm trying to build a life here. I'm trying to build a business, a relationship, friend groups, get an apartment. But I'm not sure if I can stay here. Like, it's such a safety thing.
Okay, I have a question now that I've never asked you before.
What?
How many other girlfriends
No, zero.
signed that? Because it's like, my thing was like, what made you want... I make sense of like why you were signing it to stay in the country, but it's like, for what specific reason did you ask me to sign it within the relationship? Because we were only... I genuinely feel like we had been in a relationship for a month and a half, maybe like knew of each other and started dating each other for like 2.5 months, which is very, very early.
It was my only like committed relationship in Australia. Like I was never in a relationship with anyone. I came to the country with my ex-partner. We were together for like 7 years, and then I ended that, and I was never like fully committed in a relationship with anyone because I always believed like, oh, it would hold me back and all these shitty beliefs. Yeah. And then meeting you and like fully going into this thing, I was like, amazing. We might as well start the clock.
That time frame's really short then, of like that belief of like a relationship will hold you back, and then dating, going on a date with me, getting into a committed relationship in a month. And then after a month of us just in a committed relationship, you being like, sign.
Yeah, exactly. I was confident about the future of us. I was so confident. And like signing that piece of paper, it didn't mean that much. It just means like, hey, this is when we started.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't really think anything of it. I'm like, yeah, that's...
It's just telling them like, this is when we're starting the relationship.
And it's like, if we ever broke up, knock on wood, like in that time, there was no legal stuff I really had to deal with. It was just...
No.
Done.
I was like, but if you want me to stay in the country, if you loved me, you would sign this paper. That was fun.
What made you go directly to partner visa rather than like working visa, because like, for example, you were contracted with somebody else, like doing contract work for them for social media and coaching at that point. So you could have got them to sign paperwork as well. And
Oh, that is such a big process.
so this is just the easier option.
There's James Smith, James Smith PT.
Yeah.
I watched his story the day, and he was like, I phoned the agent for us, like staying in Australia. He was like the most expensive one in Australia. And the first question he asked was, have you got an Australian girlfriend? Like that is the easiest by far. Like you could do working holiday visas. And then if you try and stay in the country through work, you have to be like sponsored for 5 years.
Okay,
it's like you have to stay in that job for like 5 years. That's what our friends are doing, like Chris.
Yeah, the moment I said it, then I realized I was clicking to. We have so many friends now that are from the UK. That's just
we're just surrounded by British people,
which I love. I love British people. But yeah, I can make sense of that now because we have some friends that do work for themselves or have always worked for themselves and came to Australia and has just got a job and have been in a job for the last 4 years just to get a visa. And I know one of our friends still works a full-time job and then runs his own business at nighttime.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah, okay. That sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the next point?
So you were talking about like how much you trusted me right at the beginning. So then I feel like when we flip the coin to my side, I believe there was so much of you that I trusted and that you were coming across like such a genuine person. You're so lovely. Wow. Charlie's face is like, yeah, that's nice.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
nice. But there was still a percentage. I was like, I trusted you 95%, but there was like 5% that I was cautious of. I was like, I kept telling myself even that I would get so happy and giddy and like, oh wow, I'm really enjoying spending my time with this person. We're having such a great time. But then I would keep reminding myself, I was like, okay, like, you know, it's like, it's still quite early. It's like true colors may have
you know what men are like.
Yeah, come into play. My experience with past men, or all the stories that you hear about the men that like gaslight you, or they're so lovely at the beginning, but then they flip, or
they love bomb you and leave.
Yeah, love bomb you and leave. Like if things are too good at the beginning, it's probably is because it is too good to be true. And so like all of that was really playing in my mind of just cautiousness. And that was what was playing on my mind. And every single dating experience I've ever had, relationship I've ever had. And which just like isn't, I'm not going to say it's not healthy, because to me it was keeping me safe in that time. It was like, it was still my boundaries, still my wall to make sure that no matter what happens, like I still have my 2 feet to stand on. And so going into the relationship, it was like you were showing me like that you were a genuine person and that you were so kind and so loving. But then I'm like, are you really this person, or are you just showing me this because you
want something?
Yeah, like you're doing it because you believe that's what I want to see or want to be around. And so I was like, okay, take it for what it is, but just make sure like that there's a 5% chance that I was like, okay, you can all switch. And so I think there was certain points that I was just waiting for us to get to like that 3-month mark for a slip up, or 6-month mark for that slip up. Because like at that time, yes, he was showing me that he was this person, but is that who he genuinely was, or was it just to play? And it's like now, so many years in, I know who you are. Like
world's longest play.
Yeah, it's like I know who you are. Like you're such a genuine person, and you are so kind, and you are so authentic. It's like who you are with our friends is who you are at home, and like how you show up online is how you are behind the scenes. But it's like at the beginning of the relationship, there's no way for me to fully know that. It was only for me to trust in who you were showing me. And then for my own safety, I was keeping that 5%. And then it was I'm going to say it was like 6 months in when you called me out on it. And I'm even going to say it was like even a year in.
Still feeling like that.
Yeah. That there would be moments that you would say to me, it's like, I feel like you're so in this relationship, but there's a small part of you that's out of it.
Yeah, you're like 99% in, but I could still feel that 1% like wanting to run away.
Yeah, pull away, run away, fly away. Like when I say fly away, I mean like get on a plane and go somewhere else.
It's like you had a bag packed ready in case you needed to grab it. That's how it felt.
Yeah, I always had my own safety net. And then I feel like that also, and then when Charlie would bring that up to me, I would be honest and be like, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Like I love you so much and we have this great life and like all these great things. But there's a part of me that's just like, I don't know when it's going to switch. Like I was just still waiting for that switch to happen to prove that I was wrong. Like to prove
that you were right.
I was like wrong or right. I was like that I was wrong about you or right that something was going to happen. But there was like, yeah, just that slight percentage of just like, because of all the stories I've heard and because of all the research and the statistics and just being realistic and like making sure that I was
watching TV so much, seeing your friends. No, but like so many movies.
The only thing you said was watching TV so much is like, no, the narrative that they share.
Yeah, the narrative
through like movies.
On all these rom-coms is like the guy leaves and stuff.
Yeah, that it was just like, it just took me so long to fully trust you in that sense. And it is really interesting because it's like, it's something that I thought I would forever have because it's like, it's a safety net. It's securing. I know that it's just a safety net for me, but I never have seen that as necessarily a bad thing. It did stop me from going completely into the relationship. But I thought that was like what was needed for me to be okay. And then we can see from my first point of like why I worked so hard and this point of why I didn't trust you completely is like what you said right at the beginning of the podcast is that I never trusted anyone completely because I needed my own stability and my own 2 feet and my own bag packed so I can run away and I'm still going to be okay. Because it's like no matter what happened. And I always had this belief, and it's a belief that I still have to some degree, that I'm slowly but surely learning otherwise because life is proving to me otherwise. But like no one gives a fuck about me, that you are the only one that can care about you. You're the only one that genuinely cares about you and can make sure that you're doing okay. And that was a belief that in itself had been proven to me my childhood and early adolescence. And then when I've met Charlie and we started to even realize this, because I think a lot of the time you create a lot of coping mechanisms, but you're not fully aware of them. You're just playing them out and acting them out.
And it's justifying them. Yeah,
and justifying them to yourself. And it's not until you are proven otherwise that you realize that you even had it in the first place. And now, like, you're someone that I can consistently see of like how much you share like great wins and everything with our friends and family.
External.
That it's like, wow, like all these people like care so much about like this success of ours or this like milestone, where if I hadn't met you or haven't seen you externalize so much, I would have believed it was like, oh, no one cares. Like, I'm not going to share that with people.
That was such a core belief of yours. Hey, like no one cares.
Yeah.
And that even stopped you, and maybe it still does, like creating content even. You're like, who the fuck cares anyway? Whereas I was such an external person. Like if I had a goal, I'd tell 20 people straight away. Like anyone I bump into, I'd want to tell them straight away, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I am. This is how I've been feeling. This is what I'm going to... Whereas you were way more internal about things. Like you'd never share a goal. You'd never share genuinely how you felt. You didn't share what challenges you were having. Whereas I was like, this is what I'm going through. This is what I want. Like, this is what I think about it.
Yeah.
So we came from completely different strategies, didn't we?
100%. And that's the thing that's like, for me, I'm aware of it now, which is like always the first step, to just to become aware of it. And it's still something that I don't 100% believe. Like I still am in shock when people care. It's like for us being pregnant and we'd share it with people and they would cry because they're so happy for us. I'm just like, whoa. Like my best friend, when I told her that I was pregnant, cried. And I was like, whoa.
What are you doing?
I didn't expect that. I didn't think you'd care. Like it's just such a interesting belief, because it's like when my family have told me that they're pregnant, friends tell me that they're pregnant, I've been so happy for them, but I never thought it was reciprocated for some reason. Not that I don't think it's been shown with that in my adult life, but yeah, so that's been really interesting. And it's something that I'm still learning because there's more evidence showing that people genuinely do care and they are excited about us and are excited when we like launch something new in our business or have this new business success or like life success.
It's such an interesting thing, that, wasn't it? And it's like all this is going on in your head of like, is he going to run away? What about this? What about that? All these concerns. Whereas in my head, I was like, do. I came from such a secure household and I didn't have much drama, like super consistent. And then coming into the relationship, I was like, cool, we're in this relationship. I'm good. I'm consistent. I'm this, I'm that. Whereas in Mia's head, it's like, oh my fucking God, what about this? You had like flaming hell in your brain, like worrying about all these worst case scenarios. Where I was just like walking through the meadow.
And sometimes I would purposely go through that narrative in my head to remind myself to be safe as well.
Don't go too far.
Yeah. And so that was a long time within our relationship. But it's like now when we look at our relationship, I am so 100% in and committed. And I'm 100% committed. There's no that 5% of security. Like I just feel overall secure in the relationship. And that was such a thing that's happened over time. Like I said before, we were a whole year in and Charlie was still saying that there was a percentage of me that still felt like I was out, and I was like ready to run at any point.
That's because I am.
Yeah. And that was just a thing, like looking back now, it's like that's something that's taken years. And from my perspective, it's something that you address, but then always just reassured me that you're there for me and held me in that no matter how I felt about the relationship, in the sense of like everything was so great, but there was a 5% that I didn't fully trust you for that.
And I was worried about that. I was like, fuck, you're just going to run away at any moment. Like if there's something that happens, I'm worried I won't be able to reassure you and you'll just run away.
Yeah.
So I thought in my head.
Yeah, now looking back, it's like that's not very reassuring for you to know that your partner that you love so much is 5% out of the relationship, and in saying that you never pressured me to break down that wall of like my safety net and like force me to trust you or get angry at me that I didn't fully trust you. It was just something that you always held space there for me. Like you always had your arms wide open, ready to be like
for you
there.
To walk towards me.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's something that I consistently say so much in this podcast and just in life, that it's like I had so many self-doubts, limiting beliefs around males in general. Like my perception on men has changed so much over the last few years, and it was actually quite negative, but I didn't realize how negative it actually was until I've experienced the positive.
Because everything's normal to you, isn't it?
Yeah, because like you normalize things so easily and so quickly that, yeah, it's just like something that I know if you had have pushed me to trust you, it would have broken it. Where it's just something that like you held so well, of you just consistently showed me how much you loved and cared for me for years. Like you just literally just, and still to this day, you consistently show that you've always been there for me. You'll always be there for me. You're fully in this. You've always taken like the first step emotionally, being vulnerable, things like that. You've always been there, taken the first step and waited there for me. Like I know when I talk to some of our other clients or friends that sometimes the guy will hear our story, then take the first step, but then go back or take 2 steps back because the female didn't match them at that point. Yeah. It's like Charlie was taking that first step consistently every area of life first until I caught up. So it's like if I would take a step, like if I would meet you where you're at, then you would just take the next step and be like, I'm waiting.
Just walking you down the path.
Yeah. But it was just like so nurturing, and it's something that's like, it genuinely has been, I'm going to say it, like we've been together for 2.5 years. Yeah. And it's taken like 2.5 years for us to get to that point, or definitely over 2 years. And so it's like us sharing this story now, it's so easy to hear, but I think it's so important to give you our time frame, because it really wasn't a month thing or a 6-month thing. It was really a 2-year thing. We shared this on, I don't think we've never shared this story on our podcast until now, but we did speak at an event live and spoke about how you were always there for me and took the first step. And there was a male in the audience that really connected with that because he was experiencing the same thing.
The girl wanted to run away.
Yeah, the girl wanting to run away. But he was so there and he was so ready to like support her and everything, and kept trying to show her that he was there for her and doing all the right things. And he came up and we had a chat after the event. But the thing is, it's like he or Charlie could have never forced me or that other girl to trust him. It was always my choice to lean in and trust Charlie. He was just showing me that he was there.
That's so good. You can't force trust.
Yeah. And like for that other girl, just like we genuinely said to him, it's like, you've done everything right. You're still there, open arms, wanting to help. But it's like, but she has decided that it's not okay for her right now. Like, it's not okay for her. And that was something that it's like, it was always, we wouldn't have gotten to this place now if I didn't want to fully trust you. Does that make sense? Because I could have always...
It's a choice and then you just get proven right.
Exactly. It's like, maybe I could have made that choice to fully trust Charlie 2.5 years ago, but I didn't, because to me, I just needed more proof of just life and stability. And it just happened to naturally evolve to that. Like it wasn't a very conscious decision to suddenly trust Charlie. There was just so much evidence again and again and again that it just was like, wow.
And people come into a relationship with these insecurities and their brain is looking for evidence to confirm those insecurities. Like if
or just beliefs, sorry.
Yeah, all these belief systems, like all men will leave because maybe your dad left and your ex cheated on you, and now all men are bad and all men are going to leave. And then this might be playing out unconsciously, and then you look for evidence to confirm that. So as soon as your partner swipes out of an app or doesn't text you about something, you go into overdrive, like, oh fuck, this means that he's going to leave. And then that pushes him away, and he's like, whoa, she's like, or he could be so innocent, but then you could be looking for all these evidence to confirm that he's this terrible guy.
Exactly.
It's such a it's such a common pattern that plays out.
I think it's such a, it's not just your negative beliefs, but any beliefs in general. It's like when I look back at my childhood, I think it's like all of my mum's closest friends all had partners, long-term partners that I had kids with. They were married for forever. And it made me think, it's like, what? Like, why specifically do I think so badly of men when I've also witnessed, like, I have been around such healthy marriages growing up, but since the ones that impacted me the most were the marriages that didn't work out, or the relationships that didn't work out, that if I ever saw something on TV that told me that my belief was true, I connected with that even more, because maybe there could have been movies that I also watched as a kid growing up where they showed such a healthy, happy marriage, but I didn't connect with it. So it just didn't register in my brain. Yeah. But when I saw something negative or negative about a man, because I had experienced, I would say, like, as a kid, like, traumatic experience, because it just made me really remember a certain belief, that anything that I saw just validated that. So I would really connect with it.
Trauma bonding with some movies.
Yeah. So let's go into any other profound.
I think finances is a big thing.
Yeah.
I always grew up, and I remember having friends mention, like, never go into business with your partner. Always keep finances separate. You don't want her to take everything. Like, all these negative, scarcity, fear-driven beliefs. And I took them on a bit. I wouldn't say I was, like, consumed by them, but I could never see myself joining finances.
You were still acting as if, like, it wasn't a negative standpoint of, like, doing it out of fear. It's just like, oh yeah, like, I've just adapted that as a belief that's just what I'm going to do. Like, that's what it was like for me anyway.
Yeah. And then our friends Liz and Simon, they mentioned, like, you knock down these walls and you join finances and you just become closer and closer. I was like, I can't even imagine doing, like, that feels so far away. Like, maybe when we're married for 5 years, then we'll do it. But we had separate bank accounts. We were putting joint, like, money into rent and buying these things and bills and stuff.
We'd put the same amount of money into an account each week, and that would be the thing that we'd use for bills. But then even that, sometimes I got a little bit funny because I'm like, you would put food on there, but I would only put food on my personal account. And so then it sort of felt like a little bit unfair. And
that just creates so much financial disconnect. There wasn't much financial intimacy between us. And
I don't
we
think
just broke down those walls slowly.
Yeah. And I feel like at the time, like we didn't see it as a bad thing because I think we both saw, like we both believed the same thing. It's like I was also told the same. It's like, you know, you always have your own finances and I've heard so many people that have gotten divorced that have like lost everything because of the divorce or things like that, that you should always like keep your own last name and keep your own money and it's your money and don't combine finances because you want your own stability. And so that was a belief that I also had, that we just came into the relationship, both of us having that. And we even heard our friends, Liz and Simon, talk about it. And we've heard other people say like when you can join finances, that's when you get to the next level of like depth in your relationship. But I didn't feel like it was a wall because
it's just normal. Yeah.
Because like it was like we both just had that belief. So it just both felt normal. And I was really happy with that dynamic. I thought it was so, like, I believed it was so healthy and it was very secure at that point. And there was only a thing that was like, it would frustrate me when I'd watch you like buy food
with our joint account.
But it's something that I also never mentioned because I didn't want to be like overly picky, but it would just like frustrate me a little bit. I was like, oh, okay. Because then I didn't know, it was like, we opened our joint bank account with the same bank account that we had, like that I already had. And so my personal card was the same color as your card for our joint account, but my joint account card was a different color. So then I was like, maybe you watch me pay for food with my personal card, which is the same color as your card.
That feels so long ago now, doesn't it?
I know. It feels like
giving a fuck about finances.
To even be speaking about this now, because like I've never shared that with you until right now.
That's so funny.
Because it just
motherfucker buying a banana on the joint account.
Yeah, you just buy food and it just like bothered me so much, which is like, it's so funny and so ridiculous now. But I know there would be also that this is playing out with people, even in marriages. There's some people that are married that still have separate finances.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And then for me, I also believe this is the biggest thing when I said right at the beginning of the podcast that if we came into our relationship expecting the dynamic that we have now, which is, I think the biggest thing is joint finances and anything that I own. Like I came into the relationship with a car and a lot of the furniture that's in the house, that if I would have ever believed that was going to be half with a man, absolutely not. To think that our finances,
you label everything.
Yeah, like any money that we make is like straight away ours, not Charlie's or just not mine. It's ours. I'd be like, absolutely not. Or to think that my partner was going to be the one that financially funds our whole life at the moment.
Yeah.
I would have been like, absolutely not. That means if I get into this relationship, I'm not going to be successful because I'm not going to be making money or like a massive amount of money, or I'm going to be leaning or depending on a man and like leaning on someone else.
That was the ultimate failure, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If I had to depend on a man, then that would be failure.
Exactly. And it's like, I thought absolutely not, which just goes to show how much personal growth I've had over this time, because it's like, I'm living my best life. Like, I love this dynamic. It's like,
yeah, it used to be like, I need to work to be successful. And now you don't work for anyone else. And you're really focused on being a mum and being pregnant and doing that stuff and nurturing the household and in this feminine role. And you're just like, fuck really, yeah, I love this shit.
Yeah. And like really supporting. It's like you and I both support our family dynamic so much. I do a lot more of the emotional and
5D stuff.
Emotional 5D there for you a lot, with a lot of business meetings, strategy meetings, the household duties. And yours is more financial. Like what you're doing is transforming what you're doing into money. It's like what I am doing is transforming it into like love and appreciation and keeping everything connected.
You nurture the household. Yeah.
So
beautiful.
I still definitely do believe that it's even. It's just you have a physical 3D thing that you're giving, that you are receiving back, and mine is just all the emotional of how happy and secure and safe that we feel.
Exactly. And when I earn money, it's our money. Like Mia does just as much as I do, and it's so important for men to realize that sometimes. sometimes when a man goes out and earns and a woman is a stay-at-home mum, then the man can feel like she doesn't appreciate me as much. He's got a chip on his shoulder of like, you've just stayed home all day with the kids. I've had to go out and work all day. Whereas the woman could feel a chip on her shoulder and being like, you get to leave the house. You got to have time away from the kids. I've been doing these hundreds of tasks, so much emotional weight every single day. And they just don't appreciate each other. So when you see how much value your partner brings into the relationship, it becomes so much easier. And that's definitely happened with us. Of like, yes, I jump on all the coaching calls and do this stuff and make all the content, but the amount of emotional support and strategy meetings and how much love you bring into the relationship and how much you back me as like, you're such a cheerleader. Whenever I have self-doubt, you're like, fuck no, like, of course you can do this. And I'm like, yeah, of course I can do this. And then I do it. And then sometimes I come back and I'm like, oh, I still feel self-doubt. And then you're there again.
The next day.
It's like, I'm so consistent with my stuff and you're so consistent with your love and support. It just makes such a strong team dynamic.
And I think it's the thing that it's like a lot of what I do is very much behind the scenes. It's like from an external point of view, it's like you are the face of the business and like physically doing stuff, of being the face of it. And then there's even sometimes we catch up with friends that we haven't seen in a while and they're like, well, what do you do? And then there's like everything that I do is very much behind the scenes, and I'm very much in the business every step of the way as much as you are. You're just the one jumping in on the call, but any brainstorming is happening together, or how many meetings we have every day together and emotional support meetings that we have every day together.
Yeah.
It's like I'm so much in that, but it's like that's everything that's happening behind the scenes.
And a trigger that came up was I post a lot of content on my page, on my Instagram, and my content blew up and got some like 150 million views in 3 months, grew to like 80,000 followers. And then people were constantly giving me praise on that. Like, congratulations. Like, oh my God, it's going so well. I look at your account every day. You're growing so much. Amazing. Congratulations. Like, there was so much spotlight on me. And yes, I deserved it. I posted content every single day for like 3 years. And then it all blew up within 2 months or 3 months. And I was like, fuck yeah, I deserve this praise. But at the same time, it felt like, I don't know, the shadow was casted on you and everyone was praising me. Do you want to talk into like the triggers that came up through that?
So I definitely did not think we were going to go, this was going to come up. But yeah, that definitely is so interesting because I feel like that was a while ago now. Like it's a lot of months ago now. Because like, I remember when it first started happening that there would be a group of us, or the person would just specifically talk to you and praise you, but then it felt like they were just like neglecting me, like even existing in that moment or talking about certain things. But I'm like, oh, but that's something that we did together, or the same or the idea that I gave you to promote on there. Because I remember when we started our business together for the relationship mentors, because we had agreed that like Charlie had like 8,500 followers on Instagram at that point, and I had 3.5. So I was like, okay, well, you have the bigger account. It'll be easier just to focus our attention on one account, because like starting a business, there's so much work that goes into it that it's like, if we're going to try and build or focus our attention on both accounts, that's double the work on each account, where it's like, okay, let's really focus on one account, growing that with building the business as well on top of it. And so like, okay, so you said that you're the one that's just your account. I'm like, yeah, that makes so much sense because you have 5,000 more followers than me. Now when you look at your account, like you've grown so much, and now I have like 9,000 where you started,
you have more followers now than I had back then, which is crazy.
And now you have a massive amount of following, which is so great, and you're so deserving of it because you were so consistent posting. But it's like within saying that as well, it's like there's ideas or like certain topics that we spoke about that you got recognition for, which was simply just my idea and my viewpoint and my opinion, that it looked like your opinion because you're the one that posted it. And I feel like at the time, like you posted it because it became your opinion. But there was just like moments when you got recognition for that and so much praise, and I was standing there next to you and they wouldn't even look at me or acknowledge me in those moments. And then I so get it, because from the external point of view, they have no idea. It's like from externally, that's exactly what it looks like. So I feel like that was really hard at that time. But now I don't feel that, so it's kind of hard to connect with it.
Yeah, and it just shows there's so many ways to break trust within a relationship. And I feel like at the time, I'd put so much work into content, like thousands of videos, hours, so much self-doubt, working through that, posting, it not getting the result, and I just keep posting anyway. And then it finally pays off and I'm getting this praise and it feels so fucking good.
Yeah, and you're so deserving of that. And that's why
Yeah.
I, like, for a while, I obviously didn't want to bring it up because I'm like, you're so deserving of this. It's like, you have put in all the work, like, you're so deserving of it. It's like,
And like, it felt so good to have this praise. And then it just blindsided me a bit because the amount of work Mia put into that as well, of the amount of ideas we were generating, her constantly coming up with different angles we could talk about, the marketing stuff. And I didn't give her the recognition at the time. When I was giving praise, I wasn't also saying like we did this together. There's a short period of time where I was just taking it all. And then after a while, Mia brought that up and it made me realize like, oh, holy fuck, yeah. I have been like indulged in this, in this praise. So just so many different ways to break trust within a relationship, and me just switching that and having that realization made us even closer.
100%. It's like, I actually totally, because it's not something I connect with anymore, that I actually forgot that it even happened. But now looking back, now that you've brought it up, it's like, I remember when I brought that up because it was like a solid month of that happening. And I was so cautious of like not wanting to bring it up because I was like, how would I bring it up that's coming up in the right way? Like, how would I say it in the correct way that doesn't shame you for getting this success? Because like, you're so deserving of it. You're so deserving of this praise. You're so deserving of like, you should genuinely like really feel that success, because that's something that I feel like you're also working on, is actually feeling your success when you hit a milestone.
Yeah.
And then it just started getting to the point that it was happening too much, and that you did start taking more recognition for specific things that I said. So then it's something that I feel like you took on really well.
Yeah, that was such a big learning point in our growth, wasn't it? And then from there, it's like, oh, business is going to be so easy now. And then it's fucking way harder than we thought. And we're trying different things and it was failing. And then we're like, we thought it would happen by now. And then we just kept going with it. And it's like slowly working out. And that's another piece I thought before getting into this. The checkpoint of getting to this place in business and then committing to the relationship, or then getting married, or then having kids. But it's like, business is an infinite game. It never stops. You just keep going with it. You just keep progressing. There's always going to be problems. That is what business is. You just cause problems and you try and fix the problems until you reach the next problem, and you just try and fix that problem. You don't get to a place where you make it in business and there's no problems. You just keep coming up with problems.
I think, if you don't mind me sharing, it's like, I feel like the biggest thing that we've learned is, it's like when you start a business or you start working for yourself, you're like, oh, I can't wait to get to this point, because like, you've clearly, there's other people that you look at, and then you make the assumption on what that must feel like and what that must be like and what their life must be like. And then like, once I get to this point, I'll be so good, like have nothing to worry about, blah, 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 blah. I'll have so much certainty in what I'm doing. But then as you're doing it, you realize like, okay, I've actually gotten to that part that I thought would have been like externally would look like we've gotten to that part, like position.
Solved it.
But then internally, like behind the scenes, it's like we've now learned that, wow, businesses, like no matter how successful that your business is or how certain you are in a particular area in business, you're actually still just figuring it out. You could have the most successful business. So I worked with businesses, like very successful businesses from my perception, when I was doing marketing and running ads for them. And I would talk to the business owners and I was like, oh, they have so much self-doubt. Like they have such a successful business.
Making $500,000 a month and they're just doubting themselves.
Yeah. And like doubting themselves so much. They like, maybe they just need more personal development to believe in themselves because they're so freaking successful and they just don't see it or feel it. And then now us being in business for as long as we have been, which is still like, we're still pretty green when we look at the
babies.
Yeah, like when we look at the lifespan of like, we haven't even been in it for 10 years, when that's when the real knowledge apparently comes in.
We're waiting for that.
I was like, oh, I get that so much now, that there is actually, doesn't matter how successful you are in business, it doesn't feel like it. And it's like, it's like you're still figuring it out. And sometimes I feel like there's moments where we feel like, oh, we thought we would just like,
it just happens.
Yeah. We just
We
thought
just
it
travel,
would just
we
be
live on the
done.
beach. We never worry again.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you just find new problems
Yeah, you
all the
kind
time.
of, I feel like now looking back, I think it was like quite naive of us, but like we just didn't know. It's like we thought that it would be like a one and done. Like, you know, everyone talks about how hard it is to do business and like, you know, you fail and you get up, you fail and you get up.
And people
we're like,
romanticize over that. And you
Yeah.
think about what it must be like to go into this uncertainty and the pain of entrepreneurship and failing in business and the uncertainty. You're like, yeah, it's going to be hard. But then you're in it, you're like, fuck, this feels like shit.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, and what I say to my friends is like, when you first start, you know, you fail, you hit that challenge, and it's like now when you look back, you're like, you hit a little micro challenge, which wasn't anything. But at the time, it feels like such a big challenge, and that you come over and you're like, oh yeah, once I launch this, like, okay, I've done the failure and like, you know, the challenge and challenge and challenge, and then like it's going to be my success time now. But then you just get
Expectation, let down, expectation, let down.
Yeah.
Constantly. And if you can't deal with pain, if you haven't got high pain thresholds, like just don't do business stuff.
Yeah, it's so interesting of just how much growth that we've had, because it's like we've been there for each other through it and got to experience together and like bounce that idea off of like when you've had weakness, I've had the strength and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's like that's been really good. I'm like, I'm so glad that we're in this together rather than separately, because I feel like if I was in it alone and had a low point, it's so great to have someone that has that strength, because I feel like sometimes if we both are in a low point, one of us will be like, okay, like I need to be the strength here, and then one of us will stand up and be like, okay,
that's so true.
like, yeah. So
that's so
anyway,
good about
yeah.
being a partnership in that.
Pardon?
That's so good about being like partnership in that. Like when I'm super doubting myself, Mia's there being strong. When Mia's feeling like shit, I'm like, nah, we got this. And it's just back and forth, just dragging each other along through the glass, through the mud, through the shit, to a flower, to a
flower that's blossoming.
No, to a field full of flowers.
Okay.
We'll get there one day. I don't think that exists. Oh, well.
Yeah, I think the biggest realization that we've had end of last year, maybe this year, is just like, okay, I think this is actually the feeling that what business is like. Like this is just a feeling of business.
We're just waiting for the feeling.
Yeah.
So like you quit your job to have freedom. You feel that for a bit, and then you work, and then we work in our business until like 9 o'clock at night every night, and we're like, fuck, this isn't freedom. This sucks. I was like, well, then we're romanticizing.
But
like, imagine having a job
where
you
you
don't.
so much.
Yeah, we love it so much. We're trauma bonded to business. Nah, it's fun. We will work it out. And it's like, you only get one life, and going on this journey, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's not the journey. It's not the destination, it's the journey.
It's not the journey, it's the destination. Let's get there.
Miley Cyrus. It's the climb. Do you feel what? Do you feel complete with what we're talking about then?
Yeah, it's like I feel like I've really covered like the biggest transformational points that I've really seen in our relationship was like finances was a massive thing. That's really like that's changed our dynamic so much. Like the trust that I have in Charlie now, and that has helped me trust just men overall, because like not only is Charlie such a genuine, kind, loving, all the praise, like just a great man, but the male friends that you have around you also represent that. So it's like it's not just you are like one of a kind, which you are one of a kind, so kind.
Thank you.
But it's like you're also surrounded by other men that I'm consistently seeing that there are good quality men out there that are very genuine and genuinely care and just mean well, and they're not fake, and it's like who they are internally are who they're showing out to be externally. And so it's like it's all thanks to you for showing me that in the world that there are great men out there. Which is great.
That's so beautiful. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You've grown so much, like even meeting each other and just how internal you were about so much stuff and not even sharing your goals and stuff like that or your aspirations. And now actually sharing that stuff makes me so excited, because I love when people share their goals with me. I'm like, fuck yeah, you can do it. We can do it like this. We can do it like that. But then now you do share it. I was like, yeah, let's make it happen.
It's definitely still something that I am learning though as well. Like I've definitely come such a long way over the last year. I feel like it's been a year of me actually opening up and sharing more. But it's like even like emotions, or if I'm going through anything, sometimes, since it's this thing that I'm still learning, sometimes it never crosses my mind to even say it out loud or to say it to someone. And then later on down the track, I'll share it with you or share it with one of our friends. Like Liz is a great friend that I'll say something to, and she's just like calls me out on it straight away. She's like, this is something that you ask someone. Like, just, we could have texted me months ago and then I could have just like helped you and given you the answer.
Instead we worry about it for 2 months.
Yeah.
It's like one question.
And then I just laugh about it because I'm like, it's so funny that like it genuinely never crosses my mind. It's not even a potential thought that it's like
something
that I could
with
share my emotions with someone, or that I could share a problem that's not even like a problem sometimes with someone and they could easily help me within a second. Like it just genuinely sometimes doesn't even cross my mind. And that just goes to show, because I had been so internal my whole entire life, that it's not just a switch that I can like, okay, now I'm suddenly going to share it with everyone. It's just like a gradual thing that I'm slowly overcoming, that it's like, okay, some people do care and some people do want like actually know and like help us or like help me out sometimes. So
the people listening to this care.
Maybe.
They've got like an hour and 5 minutes in.
Oh,
That's
wow,
very successful of them.
Do you feel like, is there anything that you haven't covered?
No, I feel complete with that. That was a great episode. I really enjoyed that. Talking about business stuff and how far we've come. And it's such a thing of, you don't know what you want sometimes. You start something and then you uncover all the layers of bullshit that you've been programmed to believe, or the insecurities or the societal stuff. And then you realize like, oh, this is what I actually want. So it's like, allow yourself to go into that journey and change along the way.
Exactly. And I agree with that so much, because it's like when we look at our dynamic now, it's like I genuinely feel so free in life of like, I have always just wanted to be a mom. And now with the lifestyle that we have created and the life that we've created for ourselves, it's like now I've created the lifestyle where I can wake up and just be with our baby all day and like cook and clean and do all the things that I
Make
genuinely
sourdough.
love. Yeah.
Ooh, it's going to be nice.
And like go to the beach and then go watch dad on his like little meetings. And
That's so cute.
yeah. So, and that makes me so happy that we've created this life now, because like I do know that some other relationships are like, okay, well, once you have a kid, you'll be a stay-at-home mom for this amount of time or forever if you like. But then sometimes if the relationship dynamic hasn't adapted to that yet, it can be a really big change, where I feel like since we've transitioned into that now, throwing in a baby nicely, having a baby in our life, will still definitely be an evolution of that, but it won't be as dramatic because we're already really setting up the dynamic now, and adjusting to like what feels fair and what feels even, and that doesn't feel like one person's taking on too much responsibilities than the other.
It's going to be great. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah.
You excited to be a mum?
Very excited.
Yeah.
I go to bed every night just like thinking about like just holding our little bubba.
Oh, and imagine like night times and baby's in bed with us. Even though like the baby's not supposed to be in bed with you, or it's supposed to be here, but we're like, we've got the baby in bed.
It's like anytime we like babysit our friends' dogs or like get them like,
For the night.
we love them, so like get them to stay over the night. Charlie always is like, they're not allowed to sleep in the bed, but always gets them in the bed.
Yeah, they're not allowed to sleep in bed, but they always end up like in bed with us.
Oh, that's just so sweet.
Oh, it's so cute. And they wake you up in the morning.
Yeah.
Imagine having a baby to wake you up. That'd be nice.
Honestly, I am so excited. Like I could just talk about this for a whole hour, but I'm genuinely so excited to be a mum, have a baby, and just like my full attention, like being able to have my full attention on Bob. Like I just think it's gonna be.
Maybe
amazing.
we'll do next episode. We just talk about what we think about being parents. Because we did an episode full on like the miscarriage and stuff like that, and that was quite that was meant to be quite a light episode, but it got like dark and deep into the journey. So I feel like a lighter episode talking about.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting, because then it's like we could do that episode, right? And then after being parents, we could be like, okay, well,
this is our expectation. This is the reality.
Yeah, it's like obviously we're so excited now, so we're really thinking about a lot of the positives, and we have heard like, you know, some struggles at night times or things like that. But I'm honestly just so happy that I would just be like, oh,
yeah,
like I'm happy to do all of it, go through all of it.
I know, we're gonna learn. It's gonna be stress. There's gonna be a little bickerments where you get a bit angry.
Yeah,
But we'll make it.
Become a lot more emotional lately, guys.
Yeah, Mia's been so emotional.
You laugh at it, and
Mia
I'm
was
just like,
Mia was hungry. The other day, Mia was really hungry when I came out, and you just like had this big frowny face, like, I'm hungry. I was like, oh, we're going to our friends and we'll have food now. She's like, no, I want like sandwiches. I was like, okay, we'll go get sandwiches. And you're just like,
no,
"Ah."
because that was not his response. I said that I wanted a sandwich or fries, and then he's like, we're gonna go have soup, and I'm like, I don't want soup.
We've got fruit in the house. You want like a banana with some honey? You're like, no, sandwiches. And then you screaming. And then I opened the door, and our neighbor was stood right there. I was like, fuck's sakes.
And it's so funny because like I feel my emotions so deeply now, and it makes me feel nice because I can express it at the moment. Like I feel it so deep within my soul, and I express it so from the depth of my soul.
Yeah.
And all I like looking back now, since I was just like so angry at that moment that I genuinely like have no idea what I said. I can't remember what I said. So sorry about that. But then just like looking back and imagining like just our neighbor across like at our door, and me screaming, I want sandwiches. And I was just like, I wonder what he thinks of that.
Yeah, and things that used to be little annoyances for you are now
Yeah.
like fucking big things.
Yeah, I was like before, like if anything that would have frustrated me slightly, it would have been like, oh, that's annoying, but whatever, like move past it. But now I feel it and then express it like, what?
Oh, she expresses it.
But yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. It has been really nice to just share like our evolution of our relationship, because who knows like how much our relationship's going to even evolve once we have Bub here. And I think it's just amazing getting to share our journey so much, and let us know if you've connected with anything or have gone through any similar things, or what transformations you have gone through in your own relationships. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. Just sharing more stories. I feel like something I'm guilty of is just sharing information, and you should do this, and this is what the 3 steps to do XYZ, but actually sharing our story and our experiences more, I've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And that's how people connect. Like when I listen to podcasts, it's never the information I love, it's the stories of what's happened in their life and how they've overcome this challenge and seeing their different dynamics. So I think people really like this.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.